Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin, well known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am finally speaking to Jojo from Jojo's Infinite Universe, but there's a history there because I'm friends with Jojo's, or was friends with Jojo's late husband, Jack, who was one of the hosts of the incredible and, dare I say, not safe for work, Bad Counsel. Hey, Jojo.
Yes. Hi, Marv. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing great. Great. It's sunny outside in warm Florida. I'm pretty excited to chat with you today.
It's cold in England and it's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
It's the world today. Talk to people all over the world. So, dare I say that I don't know whether I've got this right or not, but there's elements to JoJo's Infinite Universe where it's almost like it's in the background. What happened with Jack is awful, that he passed and what he passed away from. But I mean, it's almost like concurrent with your journey through making sense of that, almost, in a sense. Have I got that right, or is it?
I think that's what it kind of transitioned to before I had created the Instagram, because it was originally JoJo in Pittsburgh, and it was when I lived in Pittsburgh and I just did photography and worked with artists and things there. And then once I came to Florida, it was kind of like me and Jack's love story a little bit, and some of the crazy experience we were able to experience. But then after he passed, I took some time off to kind of process all of my feelings, and then I thought, okay, what am I going to do with all of this? Because the experience in itself, between just the year of me and Jack being together, because it was exactly 365 days. It was crazy. Wow. From the day I moved in to the day that he passed. So trying to process, I'm psychic and intuitive. So there was times where I was getting information and being able to navigate through this experience, that I felt that I was able to get so much information that I felt like a lot of it was so good and needed to be shared with people. After he had passed, I went through this crazy spiritual awakening where he came to me in a vision and was like, I'm coming back. And I'm like, damned if you're going to come back. Like you just got out of all the pain and everything you were going through. And it took me some time to be like, okay, he knows more than I do right now. And I totally have been the whole experience has allowed me to connect more with my spiritual gifts. So I was like, all right, I'll be open to it. And I'll just heal and I'll just focus on trying to feel as much of this as I can so that I can prepare myself for whatever he has in store for my future. Yep. Because our love was so strong that I wanted to honor that. And I wanted to honor him, because if it was me and the roles were reversed, I wouldn't want him to be unhappy for the rest of his life, right? So I wanted to honor him and making sure that I was living my best life. So I stayed open to the idea, and weirdly enough, 18 weeks later, which at the time that he gave me the vision, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be ready in 18 weeks. That's absurd. But somehow everything worked out. And that next day I prayed to Jack, like, all right, just send me somebody at least nice. If it's not you, the version of you that you want to send me, just send me someone nice. And the next day I literally met this person, and there were so many synchronicities from his name is John. So John and Jack are very similar names. His grandparents' names were Jack and Joanne, and my formal name is Joanne. And he was from Pittsburgh, but moved to Florida the month that Jack had the hip fracture. So it was
Wow.
like there was like all this crazy stuff that was just kind of being thrown in my face that is like, this is the person. And I was very open because I didn't want to waste my time being with someone that wasn't the right person for me. And so I was honest and open from the get-go and explained to them the situation and the vision and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, if this is the person, they're going to be on board. So it was kind of like a test. And they were totally on board from the get-go. So I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. And living together, and we're very, very happy.
That's great. I mean, because Jack, he was the sort of person that was sort of like live for the moment, enjoy everything that you can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he loved life to the full, and he had the best whatever he could do. I mean, I'll try that and see where that takes me. And I mean, yeah, even
he's amazing, man.
Each other
amazing.
as well. That was fascinating as well.
Oh, yeah. We met through the show. Greg is from Pittsburgh. And so Greg had found my Instagram because it was Jojo in Pittsburgh at the time. And he's, oh, check out my show. And I fell in love with the show. And then Greg was like, oh, let's have a dating show. And I was like, all right. I was in the world of yes. I was like, this will be fun. And then not to think that me and him would just hit it off like that. And wasn't much longer, like 6 months later or 7 months later, I was ended up going down and finally meeting him. And not long after that, we moved in together. It was very quick, very, very quick.
Mm-hmm. Even the pictures of you going out for the first time together, they were sort of like, it was like a couple that had been together. The pictures looked like a couple that were so comfortable with each other. It just looked like,
and it was always very comfortable. And from the moment I saw him, it was the weirdest experience. Like I said, it was a very spiritual, like as soon as I saw him, it was like my crown chakra like blew open. And it was just I walked up to him like I knew him my whole life, and we just took the day, and I ended up saying and doing things that I was never done in another. I remember sitting on the beach the first day we met, and we're sitting there, and I said to him, are you ready? And he's, ready for what? I'm like, ready for your life to change. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I would have never said that to another person ever in my life. And it was just like this weird connection. So yeah, it was pretty magical. And because of Jack's experiences and the things he did with Bad Counsel, and he was the I never know what the name of it is, but like the producing director of the Sharks, I got to experience things that I wouldn't have been able to experience otherwise, which was really great.
Yeah, he knew some cool people because of that.
he did. Mm-hmm.
He really did.
Yeah, I got to hold the flag in the middle of the arena during one of the Sharks arena football games. Like I actually got to go out on the field, which was pretty cool. So yeah, we got to talk to Jasmine St. Clair, which is a porn star. I never thought I'd be able to, and I talked to her about a month ago. She's super sweet. Like the people I've been able to talk to have just been, it's just been a great experience. And I couldn't shadow that, right? Like when he did pass, like I couldn't sit in my room and pout about it, because what was the alternative? Yeah. Right? If the alternative would have been that I never met him, and then he would have been by himself during that situation, and he got fully dependent on me towards the end. So to be alone and having to go through that, I was much happier knowing that it was a gift. God gifted me the ability to be his like angel on earth, if you will, to help transition him from this life to his next. So I felt very blessed to be a part of it.
I'm sure he felt the same way. Absolutely. Before we get to the show, we're going to carry on with this. And now that we're actually in showtime, we can talk about that project that you've done, that you've seen through for him and got actually out there. That book is amazing.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So Jack wrote a book called Pimp with a Limp. It's a parody on Cat in the Hat. It is very, very adult. So I do not recommend reading it to your child at bedtime.
No.
But can also be a coloring book if you want it to be. There's no color in it. So it gives you the ability to be creative. You can use colors or add other things to the pictures if you want to. But it's actually on Amazon. And we started doing it together. So the actual pimp, he had 100% control over what he looks like. We did about half the book, and then I finished it after he had passed. So I'm really excited to bring this to life for him, immortalize him in some way, because he was a genius. He never graduated high school, and his brain, it was almost like he was too smart for school, to be honest. But the things he's an avid reader and writer, and I was just so impressed by this because it wasn't only catchy and hilarious, but it really it was just very creative, a very unique way of spinning cat in the hat.
So had you actually finished the whole storyline of the book before?
Yes.
And you'd only got as far as halfway with the illustrations, I'm guessing.
Yes. He wrote the book a long time ago and actually read it out on Bad Counsel, which if you're interested, Bad Counsel is still going on today. They're still just as hilarious. And when we had sat down and I told him, I said, this would be a great book. And he's I'm like, yeah, I'll illustrate it for you. So we were able to get about half of the pages done, and then he got ill and I didn't have the time. So after I healed, I was like, all right, I can finish this. I can get this done for him. And it turned out actually a lot better than I expected, because the problem was once I got halfway through the book, the narrative got more challenging to illustrate.
Okay.
I didn't want it to be too X-rated. So I was able to use some pictures that represented what it was, but in a funny way. One of the examples is, I don't know if I can say the word. I mean, it's a rooster. It says like she's riding a cock. So I have her riding this gigantic rooster with these big muscles. So it's just like little things like that bring some funny to it as well.
Let's see that picture again for the people watching the video, shall we?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was video.
Yes, it goes out on video.
Perfect. Oh, and of course, now I'm not going to find that picture. This is a good one too for the people at home. They come in on a bus, and I crossed out the school and made it a hoe bus. Yep. And let me see. Up there it is. Yep. And she's riding this
rooster.
Big rooster.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, big cock. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to try to figure out ways to actually draw things without drawing phalluses all over the place.
Just in passing, I think they've done well getting Bert in on Bad Counsel. That surprised me when they came back after that break afterwards, and then suddenly they've got Bert, who everybody knew beforehand as Turdnab.
Yes, I got to meet him. I actually met Bert before I met Jack.
Wow.
Weirdly enough, because I won the dating show. Yep. Jack wasn't able to come up, but Katie and Greg came up and they were meeting Turnap there, and I got to meet him in person. He's a real nice guy. So yeah, it all seems to fit in. Everything works out for a reason. Everybody seems to be flourishing. So I'm really happy about that.
So how did you transition then from the Instagram page to actually doing the podcast?
So I got to be on a couple of Jack's podcasts. Yep. There was an episode where me and Tim's wife, Tammy, got to do an episode because the guys were ill, and it was so much fun, right? I was like, oh, I could do a podcast, and I had all this new information, and my experience was so unique that when I was going through it, I couldn't find information. Like when you search, husband says he's coming back to life, like things like that. Like I didn't know how to process it, right? I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what to expect. So I started Googling online to see if anybody else had experiences like this. And I found one person out of the whole sea of the internet. And me and her connected and I actually did a podcast with her and interviewed her on my podcast. But I wanted to put out information to people that might need help with either how to grieve a little bit easier, how to understand that the world isn't exactly the way we see it, and that we can actually create our own reality based on our belief systems. So I learned all of this through, like I said, my spiritual awakening. And then after that, it plummeted me through, I got all these spiritual downloads, if you will. And then I started utilizing YouTube and various other resources to try to validate some of that information. Because again, like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was receiving, what it actually meant, half of it. So I wanted to give people another resource to be able to understand, connect with people that might be going through different experiences, and then also talk about the things that a lot of people are afraid to talk about. I have a psychic on there. I have an episode with a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And I have a couple others coming in, another psychic and potential facilitators of sacred medicines who administers mushrooms and ayahuasca and that stuff to kind of get an idea of what that's about. So it kind of gave me the excuse to not only share my story, but to explore other things that most other people don't get to explore. So it's been a wild ride. I have to say though, it's a lot harder to do a podcast when you're doing it yourself. It's a lot of work between the editing and the promotions and things like that. But it's a labor of love. It really is. I want to, if I can touch a couple people and help them see the world a little bit differently and love themselves a little bit more, it makes it worth it for me.
Yeah, we need our very own Tim to do the editing for us, and Greg and Katie to do all the promo.
For real, for real. I used to look at Jack, and Jack was really good with what he did, but if it wasn't for Tim and Greg and Katie, like it's a lot of work for one person.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so the people that you've got then on the show, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a mix. So you'll have episodes that you're doing on your own, just you
Mm-hmm.
at the camera, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have episodes with guests.
Yes.
So the guests, some of them are people that you've found through your own journey, essentially, such as the hypnotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fascinating episode. I love that episode.
Oh, yes. When I was trying to heal from losing Jack, I was willing to try anything.
Yeah.
Anything to make it easier and quicker, because my goal was to try to be able to get back to a normal life, because I had to take time off of work because my brain wasn't, I had a broken heart syndrome, which I didn't know was a real thing.
Yeah.
So I went through that, and then my brain kind of like, my memory wasn't working right. There were certain things that just, needed processing. So I did acupuncture, I did psychic therapy, but the hypnotherapy was very interesting because you kind of write out all these questions beforehand, and then you talk with her for an hour or two to kind of get an idea of what you're looking to heal and things like that. And you go into this it's not what I ever thought it was. Like when I seen hypnotherapy before, I thought people were like in a trance and they really didn't know what they were hearing or saying, but that's not the case. It's kind of just like a heavy meditation. So you're aware the whole time of what you're saying and what she's saying, but you're seeing things differently. You're actually able to visualize, like she like calls in this stuff, and you just start describing what you're seeing to her, and then she kind of guides you through these images, and and knows the right questions to ask you to get the information. So when I started talking about like one of my past lives, she was like, okay, so why did this one come up? What is the purpose? What do you need from this experience to help you moving on? And it was super helpful in relieving some of the grief that I was feeling. Mm-hmm. I recommend it to everyone to at least try it once.
Yeah.
It's very eye-opening.
It's very. I mean, so I've listened to that one. I listened to the first episode. I'm trying to think of what I listened to as well recently. I've done a lot of listening of shows recently.
Oh, I'm sure.
What research then do you do leading up to these chats with people, and how do you arrange them?
To be honest, I probably don't do as much work on that stuff as most people would think. I like to flow with the universe. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing I've learned. So the universe sends me people or ideas. I feel like last week I was like, oh, I have no more guests. I guess I'm going to be done. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, here comes a person. I'm like, oh, I can do them. So I kind of just let whoever the universe sends to me to do or to interview. The one psychic I did, I didn't even know her. Like I just reached out to her on Instagram, like, oh, I like her stuff. And she agreed, which was great because she has a huge following. But the research, I've kind of been interested in a lot of these things prior to the podcast. So some of them I'll think about questions that I would want to know if I didn't know anything. And then I would ask questions for things that I do know, but want more information on. So the audience can get two perspectives. If they're new to the subject matter, they can get like a beginner's version. And then people that kind of understand it but want more information, they'll be able to have that as well. But yeah, I try not to plan too much because I like to leave. I know this might sound weird, but mostly in my life, I try to leave room for the universe, leave room for whatever comes through me to happen. I just did a podcast today. I put out, which was me and my partner talking about relationship stuff, like the things we've learned from our relationships. And I wrote down a couple questions that I thought it would be fun to do. But the whole thing, there was no research. It was just I like to keep it impromptu because I think showing the authenticity of it is much more valuable than me just spitting out facts. Like I like to make it a little bit more natural. So yeah, I don't prep as much as some other people do for their shows.
I mean, I do prep, as we know.
Yeah.
I do prep, but that's only to get the necessary bits out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, I like the general chat that we go into, the tangents and the natural stuff that has nothing to do with that, really, that just comes of it. They're the bits that I enjoy the most, are just the general chat that comes out, and they're like, oh, so I'm going to say something now based on something you've just said, which is obviously not in these notes, which is I was on somebody's show a while ago now, I think it was about 2 years ago, and they said to me that talking to me, they didn't expect to get from me what they did get. So I was on a show called Tracing Owls, and they were interviewing me, and they said that they never expected it to go where it went, because where I took it was because I'm a musician and I write songs. I was saying on there that I believe personally that when I've written music or I've performed music, it comes to me from somewhere. I see music almost as a spiritual thing where that music's just there for you to be open to allowing.
I agree with you.
Put over. And
a lot of musicians say
I've thought that about music for years, and he never expected that. And that what you said reminded me of the fact that I'd said that, and that's what I do believe.
Oh, I agree with you. A lot of musicians say that. I don't know if you've ever actually watched Bob Marley when he would dance on stage, but you can tell from the way his body was moving that it was like almost like a spirit coming in, taking over. And I find that a lot, especially with really great musicians, like they get into this flow. And that's an artist, even just painters and things, they always talk about the flow. And but the but most people don't understand that you can live your life in the flow, because we worry. I mean, a lot of things I've learned is we worry about stuff that really never happens, right? We're worrying about the future events that never really ever happen, but the things that are going to happen is going to be out of our control anyways. So the more we stay present in the moment, the more we can navigate and open up newer, they talk about like newer timelines or newer potentials for yourself. So I like to try to stay, the more present you are, which again, musicians, when they're in the flow, which is presence, you can stay in that flow just in life. And it's amazing the stuff you will experience. Like I never like really understood synchronicities and symbols, and they talk about angel numbers and all this stuff. And I remember when I was sitting in Pittsburgh on my couch in my living room, I was like, what are they talking about these numbers for? I never see any of these numbers. Like I was, I'd like to see these numbers. And it wasn't till after he passed that now I see them all the time. I see animals that if you ever see an animal, look up the meaning of what that animal means. Most of the time, it's resonating with what you need to know at that time. It's the world is always kind of giving you clues, like it's a big scavenger hunt game. And that's kind of the way I started living. I started making decisions not based on logic, but based on what the universe was guiding me to do. And I've made some really crazy decisions that an older version of me would have never made, and they've all worked out in my best interest. I found that when you take that leap of faith, you get a bigger reward. When you know what's happening and what's going to come down the pike, the universe is, of course you knew that was going to happen. But when you don't and you still jump, it's like, all right, we're going to reward you with this big thing or whatever. And it's when I learned that you can really create your own reality with the way your thoughts are. I was like, all right, what do I want to create? I want to live in a life of magic. Who doesn't want to live in a magical world, right? But you have to believe it and you have to seek it out, because wherever your energy goes, wherever your energy goes, that's where you see. That's what it flow. What is this? What's the saying? I can't even think. Wherever you focus, your energy goes. So if you're constantly focusing on the bad things in your life, you're going to consistently get bad things. The universe always wants you to be right. So if you're looking at the bad things, you'll just see more bad. If you're looking for the good things, you'll see more good. If you're grateful, you're going to get more things to be grateful for. So some people might think I'm a little crazy, but you know what? What I find, it's a much better place, a way to live. I am much happier than I've ever been in my life, and I'm living my best life. Weirdly enough, after losing my husband, my life is, and he's always here. Like they never leave you. That was the other thing I learned. Like I was there with him when he passed, and it was so beautiful. It was the weirdest thing. I actually have documentation of a time slip or a time dilation or whatever. So when I was saying goodbye to Jack and telling him you can go rest, all that stuff, I had his friend take pictures. And I know that might sound weird, but I had something inside me that said I wanted to capture this moment. So as she's taking pictures, my girlfriend is calling me, and her picture is on my Apple Watch in the picture at 9:10 or something. But and I put it to say I can't talk right now because I was busy. Later on, she tells me that on her phone, she was actually calling me at 9:35 or something, and the phone records prove it. Like the stuff didn't line up. So the pictures was taken at 9:10, and her phone record says she didn't call me till 9:35 or something like that.
Right.
And the text messages were flipped around too. So it was a little weird. But at the time she was calling me during this time dilation, whatever they want to call it, Jack went to her and told her, she was a psychic and she never had met Jack. And she said to me that he came to her and said he just wanted to know what true love was and that he was waiting for me and his son to get there. And it was just the most beautiful. Like, even the night before, he lost his voice. Like, I hadn't heard him talk for a while. The night before, I didn't think I would be able to talk to him. And I was sitting at home because I needed to get rest because I knew I was going to have a big day the next day. And I said, I really wish he'd call me. And then within 5 minutes, he called me on the phone. He didn't even I didn't even leave the phone by him. I'm not even sure how he got the phone, but he called me and said he loved me and all this stuff. So it's like all these little moments was just like, it was such a gift. I couldn't be sad. Like, I got to experience this most magical thing. And it, and I could see how the events, it was almost like it was bigger than us. Our love was bigger than us because the nurses, it touched all the nurses. Like, I was getting phone calls and messages from the nurses that had taken care of him and seen us. Like, when I left the hospital, I walked down a hallway of nurses that were just there for me. Like, his family, like the support there. I just saw the rippling effects of what our experience had affected others. And it was just so much bigger. It was beautiful.
Wow. Sorry, lost for words there. That's
It's
beautiful.
crazy. I don't even understand. Like I said, like some of the stuff, like I had a hard time. I had a hard time processing it because it's a lot for a human brain to try to wrap your head around, especially when the world around you is that can't happen. That's not real. And I'm like, okay, you believe what you want to believe, but I have firsthand experience. Once you have firsthand experience and you no longer believe in God, the universe, and you know how it works for you. It's like I explain to people, it's like a tree with its roots in the ground. You can't be swayed now. There's no turning back.
I mean, it's not completely the same. I'm going to go to something of myself now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same thing. But when my stepfather died, I think from what I've been told, I think I was the last person to actually talk with him. So I'd gone back to home basically to help out with the finances because he wasn't able to earn any money. So I'd gone there to help with that, and he was poorly. And so the night before, he was in really bad health at that point, and I had to help him because he couldn't easily get to the toilet and whatever, so he needed help with this,
Mm-hmm.
that, and the other. So then, and he was really embarrassed by it as well because he was married to my mum from when I was 10 years old. So he said that he was embarrassed by it, but we'd not had the greatest of, it's the whole stepfather and stepson thing, and I didn't particularly like him that much when I was younger because he wasn't my dad. But over the years, it was almost as though, because the last thing he said to me was something about, he said, I'm proud of the person that you've turned out to be, even though I never thought that you would be the person that you have become, which was really nice. But that was the last thing that he said. And then I went to work the following morning and found out while I was at work that that morning, not long after I'd gone to work, he'd gone basically. And it was strange because I've always thought all this time that in a sense, it was almost like a sense of, he had to say that. And it was like this journey that we'd had from being there to there, that was the natural,
Mm-hmm.
almost as though it ended on that right point.
The
It's
chapter
almost,
closed.
you know what I
Yep.
mean? It was closure. And it was just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe, I believe everything's almost predetermined. I feel like we're just here to feel what it feels like to have the experiences, but we don't necessarily have too much control over the experiences. Like, it's almost predestined because I saw how, like, I was experiencing him being sick in a different way than probably most. Like I was almost like elevated from it. Like I was in it, but I was watching everything and experiencing everything. I saw how it brought his family and him closer together. I saw how everything had its perfect timing. I was supposed to be by myself. Like I lived in Florida by myself. I had no family or friends here. So like after he died, like I should have been home by myself. But for some reason, the universe brought his ex-wife, his first wife, who me and her are now super besties, and Tim's wife, Tammy, to come, and they took care of me for the first 2 days. It was, I realized that no matter what, the universe always had me. No matter what I had to experience, there was always a support there. And it allows you to not worry as much because you know that even if you have to go through pain, you're not really ever alone. Even if it's nobody physically there, but they're, I would call my spirit squad. They're always there to try to make sure that you stay. I always say it's like bumpers,
Yeah.
right? You stay within your bumpers. And if you get too far off your bumpers, then your life gets it gets harder. But if you stay within your bumpers, you're kind of experiencing this. You're just experiencing things in a much different. It's hard to explain, but you kind of almost see in an elevated view, and you can see how everything connects. Because, like I said, if me and Jack didn't meet, like when I had met him, he was living in a trailer. And not that I have anything to, but it wouldn't have been easy for him to move a wheelchair through there. The house I was able to move him into was huge. So we had a lot of room for the wheelchair. The way the bathrooms were set up was it was just like perfect. It wasn't anything that I was missing. We were able to give his twins their own separate bedrooms that he got to feel that pride in doing that for them. They were just things that he got to experience that it was like I said, everything was just perfect. Even when it was painful, it still was exactly what it needed to be. And that allowed me the ability to not feel like I have to control anything and just let go and just experience it, which totally changes your perspective on life. When you go from feeling like you have to do and do and do and control to just being like, all right, we're just going to ride this wave. We're just going to see where it takes me. I know I'm going to be supported no matter what. So being able to take your hands off the wheel, Jesus take the wheel kind of thing. It's very freeing.
But both of you, I get the sense that you and Jack had that similarity where he was the sort of person as well where he just went from one place, one thing to another, and he just let life lead him essentially. Mm-hmm. He just let it go. Is this where I'm going? Yeah, I'll just go there and see where that takes me. And
yeah, he's pretty good at adapting to his surroundings. He used to do, before he was with the Sharks, he was with the Predators in Orlando. And when he was there, he would sell tickets and he would sell them in the box office or whatever during the day. And whatever was left over, he would then go take to, I don't remember what order he did this in, but he would take them to the penthouse people and try to sell them there. And then whatever's left over, then he would go down to the streets and go sell them there. So he was experiencing, it didn't matter who you were. When he was at the Sharks, I would watch him go into the stands with the fans, and arena football fans are very diverse. You get all kinds of types of people, and he was just very good at adapting, and he had such a beautiful heart. Like he would help people even if he was struggling, and it was inspirational, honestly. Like he made me want to be a better person, honestly.
That was where I was going to go to next, because I also thought when you were mentioning about the fact that you had that support to fall back on as well, that mm-hmm. surprised you. It doesn't surprise me at all, because what little experience I had of interaction with Jack, it's a strange thing, because he was the sort of person where you were just sort of almost drawn to him as a person. You thought, this is a really nice guy, and you couldn't mm-hmm. help but be sort of friendly with him, because he just there's something about him that was just different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he had no judgment. Like you wouldn't judge a single person. Yeah, he was very unique, very very unique. And he had a rough he had a rough beginning. Like he's been through a lot of he was through a lot of stuff that humbled him, honestly, probably. So he could see he's been through pain, so he knew what pain was, and he would never want to be a part of causing pain to anyone. So yeah, he was a great man. And like I said, with the podcast or with the experience before, I've always been a spiritual person, but I blocked a lot of my gifts, or I hid them because I didn't feel I was accepted in that light. And because of everything that I went through with him, I learned to love all the pieces of me and accept those parts. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gone into I have a mindset coaching now. I do mindset coaching with people and do energy healing. And I have clients that come see me that I just love watching them change, them grow. I have one woman, she's just amazing, and she's calling me today. She goes, "I lost another 12 pounds," and I'm like, "That's great!" Like I'm not teaching her to exercise or nothing. It's all mindset. It's clearing out that old energy, healing those traumas, and healing your child wounds. And I do a thing I call it quantum reprogramming, where I use my gifts. It's very hard to explain how it works, but I basically work with the person to figure out what kind of beliefs that they have that are kind of holding them back, that's stuck in their, what I call their computer, their subconscious. Some of the stuff's been in there since they were kids. Some are actually their generational trauma, because we take on all the stuff our parents haven't healed too, and our grandparents haven't healed. And I do like energy work, and it actually removes it from their subconscious. And when they go to bed that night, it almost reprograms their computer. So when they get up the next day, they're now operating without that belief, and it changes the way they behave and the choices that they make, and it changes their frequency so that they're attracting more of what their divine purpose is supposed to be. And it's my favorite thing to do.
So, show art music. Actually, here's an interesting one. Is that so? It's on YouTube, on your
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel.
Yep,
Is
YouTube,
it
and I'm on Spotify.
on Spotify as well? I was wondering actually
Mm-hmm.
if it was on a podcast network as well, because I normally
Yes.
use. Okay, so I could find it then. This is for myself. I could find it then just by going to Spotify and then listen to the audio version.
Funny enough, the video version is on Spotify as well. You can watch
Right.
the video. So yeah, so you can listen to it as an audio, but the video is actually on Spotify as well, which I was shocked when I uploaded it. I was like, "Oh, the video's on here too. This is great."
Wow. Wow. I mean, I have when I've been driving and listening to it, I have when I've parked up, I've suddenly looked over and thought, okay, if somebody mentions something that they're holding or something, I might suddenly quickly glance and go, all right, okay, and then go back to driving. But yeah,
Yes. Yes, be safe. Please
be
be
safe.
safe.
Yeah. So what show art music? Yeah, the
And I
show art.
also do
Yeah.
art.
Yes.
Yeah, so I also have, I call it totem or twin flame totems. Actually, I have one here. I create little resin totem pieces, different things depending on what you're looking for. I have this is Venus, so she'll attract love. I have different spiritual animals, dragons and lions, and some chakra stones and Buddhas, and I make them completely customizable.
Yeah.
So you could pick whatever color combos you want to put together. I make it personally for each one, and then I charge them all with my energy, and then they get this nice little gift. They can put it. I always say altars aren't just for priests and witches. You can you can have an altar of your own at home. So yeah, you can use it for altars or just to decorate your office. But yeah, so I started doing that art as well. Yeah.
Well, that skateboard
Lots
at
of
the back
things.
of you is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I bought it just basically because I liked the Buddha on it. It's got a Buddha and a lotus and some succulents. I ride it around the house. I do not trust myself to ride it outside yet. I'm not a very I've I envy the people that can go out and like really skateboard. I really wish I was one of those people, but I'm just learning really slowly how to stay on it.
Steve Caballero and Tony Hawks, you've got a new person that wants to learn from you both.
Oh yes, if somebody wants to teach me how to skateboard, that would be fun.
So what are your how standout moments? Have you got any standout moments from the show?
If I had to pick my favorite show, it was probably, I'm gonna say it was episode 4. I think it was 4, is when I interviewed John, my new partner, and got his perspective on the whole thing. Because I in episode 1 and 3, I kind of go into my side of the experience of Jack coming back and and what it was like for me. But I wanted his perspective because that's a whole nother flip side. Like, you're coming into a relationship with this woman who's saying you're her deceased husband. Like, how crazy is this woman? So I really wanted to get his perspective on his experience. And that was probably my most fun episode, because I got to ask questions that most people would never ask their partner. So yeah, that was fun. Lots of fun. But I've had such great guests. It's hard to pick one because each one's so different. I love to do stories of triumph, right? Where trauma is just a catalyst to new evolution and new experiences. And I really like to honor the people that have taken their trauma and alchemized it into something beautiful. And I'm going to have some guests on that do that as well. But I interviewed this woman who had lost her husband, and she had 12 kids. So how to, like, the experience I had, I thought was easy, honestly, even though it was hard, but because I had to only heal myself. Really, she had to not only heal herself but take care of 12 kids at the same time, and she was a housewife when she had to figure out her husband's business and how to make it all work. And the universe always protected her and guided her. And that's kind of what I was trying to teach everyone, that yes, it hurts and the pain is something you have to go through and feel, but it doesn't have to be your whole story. No. It doesn't have to end your story. It could just be the beginning. But yeah, I love those types of stories. So if there's anybody out there who has a crazy story, or a story of where you've taken the crap that sometimes life deals you and you've turned it to gold, please reach out to me. I would love to have you on the show. Or if you have any weird information, like you do something odd and you want to share that with the world, I love to open up people's minds to different things and different realities. So please, jojo'sinfiniteuniverse.com. So everything's on there, my podcast, all that stuff. But yeah, I love meeting new people. It's just been a lot of fun.
We would have got to that in a bit, actually.
I know. I overzealous.
There you go. It's the freewheeling, just do it the way it comes. So what would you be your top life tips then, or tips for people going through these sort of things?
Feel, number one. Make sure you're feeling your emotions. If you need to take a day to feel your stuff, take the day. Don't suppress anything. It seems like the more you suppress it, the longer it takes to heal it. Yeah. So if you can get in your feelings and you can just feel them and let them pass and roll through you, like, again, like a wave, you're gonna process it easier on your body. The more you hold on, the more like energy can get trapped inside you. So feel your feelings if you're going through something traumatic. The other thing is, make sure you love yourself. And I don't mean just taking yourself and buying yourself a new outfit. I mean really love and value yourself the way God loves you. Everyone has flaws, everyone is unique, and everyone's perfect just the way they are. And just to embrace that, because it will change your life, because you'll attract things that honor that value. And yeah, because I used to not live that way. I used to live in a world where I did not love myself, and my world showed me that every day. So you definitely mirror and magnetize your world based on how you feel about yourself on the inside, and create your own reality. You have the power. Take back your power from media or whatever else that's taking it away, and create what you want to create. The world's always going to be chaotic, but it doesn't have to touch you if you don't let it. So really take your power back, create whatever you want to create. You have no limitations on what you're able to create in this world. And just love life. Like, we only get one. We only get this one. At least we only get this one as this version of us.
Yes. Yep.
So
Listen to the episode with the hypnotherapist to find out about a previous life.
Yeah. Yes. If you want to do some past life stuff, that's a lot of, like I said, I love this stuff. I've always been drawn to it ever since I was younger. The mystical world. It's a lot more real. And even science now is proving it. Quantum physics is showing that there's 11 different dimensions. The CERN collider has proven that there's a God particle. It's all math and geometry. Like the whole world, CERN has proven that we live in a matrix because of the way it's all organized mathematically. I'm so impressed that science is finally starting to align more with, I don't want to say religion, because religion has sometimes a bad rap, but all the religions are basically the same thing, honestly, if you really look at them all. Once you take the man out of it and trying to control people, and you just look at the actual lessons and the real information, they're all basically the same. And they're all just telling you to just be you and understand you're going to make mistakes and forgive yourself and just do your best, be as ethical and have as much integrity as you can, and the world will show it to you back.
Yeah. And try and accept people for who they are, and don't
judge people.
People.
That was the biggest thing. After I was going through what I was going through, there was times where I would be sitting in a parking lot bawling my eyes out, right? And then I realized that, and I know this is dumb that it took that moment to realize it, but you never know what anyone is going through.
No.
So give everyone some grace and some love, because their immediate reaction, or however they're reacting to you, has absolutely usually nothing to do with you. That's everything to do with them. So just give people some grace and some love, and the world would be like the Beatles. Their messages were true. Love. That's the answer.
Yep. Like Paul McCartney said, one of the best things about the Beatles is how many of their songs had the word love in them somewhere, because that's what he said most important.
Agree.
So going from life tips, what advice would you give to people doing their own podcast?
If you can do it with more than one person, it might be a little bit easier, but don't put so much stress on yourself. Just do it for you. And if you're not doing it for you, then you shouldn't do it, because it is not something you're gonna make money off of. It's not something that you're not gonna be the next Joe Rogan 9 chances out of 10. Not saying it's not possible, but especially when you're first starting out, just play with it. Experiment with stuff, move stuff around. You don't have to fit into a box. You don't have to be like everyone else. Just do what makes you happy, and find the joy in it, the fun in it, because otherwise you're going to just make yourself miserable.
That's great advice. So what shows do you like to listen to yourself, podcast wise?
I've always been a fan of Bad Counsel. I don't think I'll ever not be a fan of Bad Counsel. I do see in some of the stuff, I don't know if they're necessarily considered podcasts, but on YouTube, there is a I guess it would be a podcast, Next Level Soul.
Yeah.
Alex, I can't remember his last name, but Alex speaks to a whole bunch of psychics and channelers and scientists. Yeah, he had somebody on there from NASA that talks about, again, quantum physics and all this stuff. So it's mixing spirituality and science and really seeing how they're connected. And I always tell people who have a weird thing about channelers, right? Because they're ultimately trying to believe that this person is getting messages from another entity. Some say they're aliens, some say they're higher selves, whatever. But I wouldn't focus on that. Focus on the message. If the message resonates with you, then there's truth in it, right? So don't focus on how they're getting the message, or the person. Just see if the message actually resonates with you. And I absolutely love the way he is with this guest. He's just very entertaining.
That's great. Okay, so you've already done this next bit, which is where to find you and get hold of you.
Yes, jojo'sinfiniteuniverse.com is where you'll find all of my stuff, pieces to my podcast, my art, and mindset coaching. I'm also on Instagram at Jojo's Infinite Universe. It's all Jojo's Infinite Universe. I figured it's easier that way. But yeah, please reach out to me if you'd like to be on the show, or if you have any kind of if you would like any kind of mindset coaching. I do virtual sessions, so I have very good success with my clients. They're all very, very happy. So I love to reach out and help some more people.
Or if you have suggestions for people that you know that would be great for Jojo to talk to.
Yes. Send me people that want to really elevate their mindset and attract a clearer mind with higher joyful. I always say it's like you start finding out what peace really is. I love to bring that to people.
That's great. All right. Thank you for speaking with me today, Jojo.
Thank you so much, Marv. I hope you have a blessed week.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can find Pods Like Us on any social network: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads. Where's the other one? TikTok. Just look for Pods Like Us. And we're also on Patreon, and you can find us, get in touch with us through podslikeus@gmail.com. Actually, the video thing, if anyone wants to watch the video, you can find it on Roku devices. Just search for Pods Like Us on there and you'll be able to watch us. Until next time, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.